Finding a new job is stressful. But with Indeed, it doesn't have to be. Just fill out your Indeed profile with your skills, experience, and desired salary. The more you fill out, the better your matches will be. And hearing from hiring managers will be 2 times more likely. Relax. That's your Indeed profile sending opportunities your way. Indeed, the world can work better.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. I don't know if you knew this, but anyone can get the same premium wireless for $15 a month plan that I've been enjoying. It's not just for celebrities. So do like I did and have one of your assistants switch you to Mint Mobile today. I'm told it's super easy to do at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
Are you still quoting 30-year-old movies? Have you said cool beans in the past 90 days? Do you think Discover isn't widely accepted? If this sounds like you, you're stuck in the past. Discover is accepted at 99% of places that take credit cards nationwide. And every time you make a purchase with your card, you automatically earn cash back. Welcome to the now. It pays to Discover. Learn more at discover.com/creditcard. Based on the February 2024 Nielsen Report.
Mega is an improvised satire from the staff of a fictional megachurch.
We are here, the Lord, we are here, and we're ready to podcast.
Hiya, I'm Hallie Labont, and this is Mega, coming to you from Twin Hills Community Church, where every single week we're giving our mega church a tiny family feel. We love to introduce you to members of our church staff and people from our community. Ooh, I find it to be a treat and a treasure. And per usual, I'm joined by my co-host. He's the youth pastor for our high school ministry called Climax. Welcome, Gray Haas.
Not a bit. Jesus is lit, Hallie. How are you?
Too blessed to be stressed, too anointed to be disappointed, and way too grateful to be hateful. Well, just like the Bible says, if your arm causes you to sin, cut it off. Our guest today will cut your bangs and your back. We'll cut your bangs and your, well,
right.
We'll
Yeah,
give
the
you
back
whatever.
Of your hair too, right?
The back of your hair.
And the fronts and the sides.
And the sides, anything. What I was afraid it would sound like, as I was saying, would cut your back hair. And I don't know if Jim Halfy does any of that, body grooming and landscaping, but it is my pleasure to introduce Mr. Jim Halfy. How you doing today, Jim?
Oh, I'm doing just fine. Just fine. Happy to be here. So good to see your smiling faces.
Oh,
Jim,
same, Jim.
It is just wonderful to see you. Now, folks who are listening definitely know Jim, because every Sunday, without fail, you have Haircuts by Halfy booth set up right there in the main lobby.
That's
as people are coming and going. And you are, is it right? You give haircuts to the least of these, the less fortunate among us.
That is true. I have been a licensed barber here in town for a very long time, and I decided to give back to the community using the skills that the Lord has given me, which of course is dexterity in the fingers and a joy for making sculptures out of people's hair. And so I said, I came to the church, I saw that there was people who were looking a little ragged the first time, and I just said, I can fix this, and you know what? You don't have to pay me a dime.
Awesome. And you've got your sharp scissors. You've got your sanitizing, solutions that you're putting. Yeah,
fungicide,
you're putting your
because
combs
you see,
in there. And
yes, the combs will get fungus in them if you are combing people's hair who have fungal infections. That is actually, a lot of people don't know this, and sorry if I'm getting into the weeds, but a lot of dandruff is actually caused by fungus. It's not dry skin. It's a fungal infection of the scalp. And so I use fungicide on all of my utensils to not pass dandruff to one person who, let's be honest, is already in a difficult position, and giving them dandruff would not make their life easier by any means.
Yeah, I don't think we need to talk any more specifically about dandruff.
Well, I think it's interesting.
But, Hallie, I mean, as we know, if you are, among the least of these, then you probably do have dandruff, and that is something that you don't want to pass along to somebody who is maybe doing a little bit better in life. Isn't that right?
That's right. And I'll tell you what, nothing makes you feel as good as a fresh haircut. And if you can do that for people who are down on their luck, I think you have the hands of Jesus. You're like Edward Scissorhands, but coming out of the body of Jesus.
Yes, and also I can put the scissors down, even though my wife has told me for years that the scissors are in my hands more than her hands are in my hands. She makes a joke that I spend more time cutting hair than cutting rugs or anything with her, that we don't go on enough dates. It's a funny little inside joke between me and my wife, who you both know. You see her every
she does the reception, I guess the intake for the booth. Is that right?
Yeah. She does. She stands there and she asks any information that they are willing to offer us. A lot of these folks don't have consistent access to internet, or so we don't necessarily always ask for email addresses. But if they are willing to give us email addresses, we do send out a blast because a lot of people these days on TikTok and Instagram, they post their pictures and videos of them doing haircuts, and it's become very popular. Now we try to, anyone who will get a haircut from me, we shoot a little video, and it's Halfy's haircuts, but we'll do the whole thing is kind of the joke that we do.
That's great. You don't just do half.
Afters. No, I do not do half haircuts unless it's specifically requested for some kind of costume or something. If you're trying to be one kind of person on one side of your face and a different kind of person on the other side of your face, I will do half a haircut. But that is the only time I will stop halfway.
Well, and I know there was that story. You did have an issue with that, didn't you, a few years ago, when basically a guy that was down on his luck, he had come to the church, he has, no money, he got a half haircut from you, and then wouldn't you know it, the next day he robbed a bank.
Yeah. That's
he robbed
right.
it with half of it, with the one half facing the camera, so it took them a long time to track him down.
Yes, it turns out all that he had to disguise his face was a Phantom of the Opera style face mask. So he asked me to cut the other half of his hair to make him look different than he looked, so that one side of his face was concealed and the other side had a haircut that was not traditional of his everyday look. And I have prayed about this since the day that it happened, because I feel even though it was done without my knowledge, I did aid and abet a criminal, and it is something that I will take with me to the grave. And I apologize, and I've taken every opportunity to apologize because I just can't. It hurts to know that I did that.
Well, all you know is that, with someone like that, you can pretty much be assured that they're an out-of-work actor or something, because who robs a bank in a Phantom of the Opera mask other than, somebody who's, probably got some delusions about how to make it in show business in the first place.
Yep.
Vitamin Water Zero Sugar has great taste, zero BS, and obviously zero sugar. For those with zero room in their calendar, zero patience for slow walkers, those who get 0 hours of sleep on a Saturday night, have zero filter, zero given, and zero interest in grabbing a plain, boring water. Grab a delicious Vitamin Water Zero Sugar today.
McCrispy strips are now at McDonald's. I hope you're ready for the most dippable chicken in McDonald's history. Dip it in all the sauces. Dip it in that hot sauce in your bag. Dip it in your McFlurry. Your dip is your business. McCrispy strips at McDonald's.
just want to say I love your wife, Kathy Halfy. I mean, she's in my book club and she's a delight. And I wonder, do you cut her hair? Because I think she's got such a unique look.
Yeah, what is that look?
It's kind of it's an upside down kind of bob situation. It's sort of. It's kind of shorter up top. It kind of lays in an interesting way. It sort of looks like a U that kind of sticks off the top.
An upside down bob is exactly what it is. It's so cool.
And she does not let me cut her hair, unfortunately. She said once when we were young, she said, if you messed it up, I'd never forgive you.
Yep.
So why don't we just not take the risk, is what she says. And so neither one of us participate in either's creative sort of endeavors for fear of making a mistake that we cannot live down.
Smart.
Well, that haircut is interesting, and I've noticed because that haircut that she has isn't offered on your because you have a poster of the 5 haircuts that you give
I know
now.
5, and I can do the 5.
Yes, and hers looks like she's in an anti-gravity chamber, and possibly that somehow everything's just about to fall toward the ceiling.
She's actually walked into rooms and disoriented people because they were so confused about the direction of her hair.
It's instant vertigo.
Yeah. She once saw an astronaut and they had a flashback to being on the space shuttle because she looked like they looked when they were on the space shuttle.
Isn't that fun?
Yeah.
Wow, that's cool. They can do anything up there in the space station and whatnot. And I'll tell you what, Jim, I like it when a pizza place lets you do half cheese and half, ham and pineapple, or half sausage and jalapeno and half, pepperoni. And the fact that you offer that with your haircuts means, that people like me who I rock an asymmetrical look. I like it. I think it makes me look hip, that it's longer. It's by my chin on this side and then it's above my ear on that side. And I think that is a good technique you have.
Well, I've said to people, look, I got to cut the whole head, but you can mix and match.
Of the 5, you can.
Of the 5.
Of the 5.
Of the 5, if you want left side to be a bowl and you want the right side to be a crew, as long as I touch the whole way around 360 degrees,
right?
Or in every dimension, the sphere of your head, because it's not that your head's not a circle, your head is a sphere, so there's multiple dimensions.
Wow!
I do the whole head, but you can pick and choose. Of course, there is the bowl, there is the crew,
right?
There is the high and tight, there is the full shave, and of course there is pulled back ponytail, which is of course not necessarily a haircut, more of a hairstyle. But if you have trouble keeping your hair out of your eyes, I will, again, for free, if you are less fortunate, put your hair into a ponytail for you.
Oh, isn't that awesome? And satisfaction guaranteed is what's under your sign there.
Yep.
And I did have a question about, I wouldn't call this, what would you call it? Sort of an unfortunate event where a very poor man came in and he already had a short haircut and he picked the ponytail. And then I guess you were really stuck between a rock and a hard place, weren't you?
I was, and I first confirmed with him. I said, are you sure that this is what you want to do? Because I want you to leave here happy. This is going to be a challenge for me, but I've never been one to back down. He said he had a job interview coming up and he wanted to look a bit more presentable.
More likely he was on drugs, but go on.
Yes. And so what I ended up doing is, because there was not enough hair on his head to create a ponytail. So what I did was I pulled his head skin real hard back into the back. And thankfully he had enough skin that there wasn't breakage or anything like that. And he kind of just had, it kind of ended up looking like his head was a tied off balloon.
Yeah. And you gave him a facelift too.
I mean, his face looked great. I hope he got the job.
I don't think that he did. I didn't check in with him again. Contact information for these people is really spotty most of the time, so I didn't follow up. But people did witness me doing this.
I mean, I heard that he looked like Tom Cruise in The Last Samurai, except that his hair was skin.
Yeah. That's true.
And that's what I thought as well. But the rumor going around was that I had done horrible things to this man's head and scalp. And there was a good 6-month period where nobody can. And I'll be honest with you, as I've gotten older, less and less people have decided to get their haircuts on Haircuts by Halfy every Sunday. But this was sort of, you could say, the scream that started the avalanche in terms of my business was when I did a skin ponytail on that man.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's unfortunate because I'm sure people here completely don't even know that. People don't get the backstory, do they, Hallie?
No.
It's just like everybody right now is just about the headline and no one's reading the article. I would say if someone came in there and had that request, that is what you gave them. And
what is a man to do?
Right.
What is a man to do when someone confirms multiple times that they understand what's about to happen is going to happen, and then you do what they request, and it ends up making their head look like a balloon at a party for children?
Well, it's Christ-like, isn't it? Because I'm sure Christ was having a similar conversation with where he's going, hey, I want to die on the cross, and God, it might be going, hey, are you sure you want to do that? And maybe Christ was going, yeah, I'm sure. Maybe Christ wasn't even realizing that in that moment, like about how it would hurt or what it would be. But God is like you, 100% satisfaction guarantee.
And he has a plan for everyone. There's a plan. And the thing that I keep coming back to with that is that was supposed to happen on that day. It may have hurt my business. It may have hurt that man physically.
They definitely hurt your TikTok.
Well, again, I'm one of the first people to have negative followers on TikTok. They somehow took people left the app.
Yeah.
The people left the app and they attributed it to seeing that video of mine. But
they give you that statistic.
Yeah, TikTok sent me an email that said specifically 4,300 people have left the app citing your video.
Wow.
And a lot of people would take that and the sort of declining business that I've seen over the years, and they would run. They would go home and they would say, "This isn't for me anymore." But I'm called to this.
Yep.
And you guys know that. You know that if you're called to something, you can't turn your back, because if
maybe
you
those
do,
people just hated The Last Samurai. You don't know.
Yeah. It's your mission. And I'll tell you what, speaking of Jesus and Christ specifically, I think he had such natural layers and highlights, frankly. He didn't have a monochromatic color. I thought there was some highlight in there that seemed natural from the sun. But he had long layers, but very blended layers. Now, do you think you'd be able to give Jesus his regular cut out of year 5? Which one would it be?
That's a really interesting question, because I never considered the fact that there may come a time in the future where I've got to give Jesus himself a haircut.
He is coming back.
Well,
he's coming
when he
back.
comes back, we might not recognize him, because he might be, one of those people that wanders in, late to a service, trying to look for food or whatever, and that are always, possibly going to get a haircut.
And what if, this is making me feel better to think about it like this. What if that man asking me for that haircut was, in fact, Jesus, and I had denied him the thing that he wanted?
Wow. Wow. Oh, wow.
That makes me feel a little bit emotional when I think about it like that.
And what emotion are you feeling?
What I believe I'm feeling is not sadness. It's more this sort of smallness in the scheme of life.
Well, that might be hunger.
Yeah, is that an
Do
emotion?
you need a
Smallness?
snack?
I'm not sure.
Yeah. I've got some kind bars if you want one.
Well, now that you mention it, I did not eat lunch or breakfast this morning.
Yeah, it might just be low blood sugar, to be honest.
I've got some beef jerky. I got these chomp sticks. Do you want a chomp stick?
Oh, those are too spicy for me. These
yeah,
days.
they are.
I
They do
can't
have a
handle
kick.
that.
Okay, here's a
But I
kind
mean, just
bar.
to even let you know, Jim, and I think this is an important thing. I always love to take something from today in our calling. For me, it's, obviously leading youth to Christ and influencing people on the
Which you
internet.
do a
sort of
great
hand-
job
Thank
of,
you.
by the
You're
way.
awesome.
And, one thing I like to think about is, what if Jesus was in my youth group?
Wow.
Or what if, in your instance, what if Samson came to get a haircut?
Wow.
Now you've got a problem, don't you?
Yeah.
Or what if
my
Samson's coming there and Delilah is going, hey, he needs a haircut, and Samson's going, maybe he's got something, maybe he's tied up, and he's going, no, it's something. And, what do you do in those
What do you
situations?
do?
And I think it's just important to bring our calling, the biblical stories into our calling today.
Yep.
Yeah, thinking about that Samson example, I would like to hope that if somebody came into the shop tied up, I'd ask a question or two.
Okay, good.
But I'll be honest with you. Sometimes you ask questions and people they are offended by your question. And so if he came in tied up, I try to not be judgmental. They say the only person in this, the only judge in the universe is God himself.
Isn't that
So
right? Yeah.
I try not to judge people. And so if somebody came in tied up, I'd like to think I'd be able to tell that there was something nefarious going on and ask the right questions. But
Yes.
if I honestly might, and this may, again, I don't think this is hunger that I'm feeling. I think this is making me just
you're feeling
scared.
something.
Emotional?
Oh,
Maybe
scared.
scared
Okay,
about my
really.
future.
Oh, wow.
What if I do? What if Jesus comes again and he comes in and asks for a haircut and and my old hands can't do what he needs? What if Samson comes in tied up and I just go ahead and cut off all his hair?
Oh my
I mean, it's an important thing to think about, Hallie, and the way you describe
really
Jesus' hair is exactly how I think about it. And you can't even imagine Jesus with a bowl cut, can you?
No. It wouldn't even be Christ our Lord. Not,
I mean,
not in the least.
he wouldn't. I don't know if you could. I would have a hard time praying to that
I
person.
mean, if I saw a picture of Jesus with a crew cut, or quite frankly, any other haircut besides flowing brown,
yes,
which
yeah.
is, of course, what I call Jesus' haircut is a flowing brown.
A flowing
He's
brown.
got a flowing brown.
Yes,
he does.
if I were to see him with any other kind of haircut, I think it would shock me to my core.
Test, check 1, 2. You know you need unique New York. You know you need unique New York. Does that sound all right? Ah, that's better. You can always tell something's missing when you get isolated results. Like AI that's only right for one of your systems. Get AI that can work across your data and applications. Learn more at IBM.com. The AI built for business. IBM.
Whatever the occasion, effortless elegance is right this way. Because Hilton brings you new ways to stay courtesy of the Nomad London. And it doesn't stop at award-winning dining in a space draped in velvet and illuminated by vintage chandeliers. No, this day goes beyond with unparalleled personalized service and attentive hospitality. Oh, and did we mention the Nomad London can be booked using your Hilton Honors points at Hilton.com? Hilton, for this day.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned your old hands, because I love your hands. I think they've got character. They're very masculine. They're thick. You have a strong nail at the end of each finger.
It's a thick nail,
but they're
very
shaky, and they're man hands. You got a thick paw.
And do they close?
Yeah,
They do not. Well, they do not close. In fact, the fingers on my right hand now only go the distance, the widest that my scissors can go, and the shortest. So if you look, it can only start here, and they can only go to about there. Because as you did say, my hands are quite thick, and so my scissors are not your typical scissors that most barbers use, the tiny ones with the very sort of pointed tip, very sharp. Mine are they've been compared to kitchen shears that you use to cut chicken bones and things like that.
And is that what they are?
Well, that is where I purchased them. I did get them from a very nice homeware store. If you've heard of Sur La Table.
That's a fancy one. Yeah,
they are expensive kitchen shears that I will openly admit make my job more difficult, but they are the only things that my hands in their current state can manage, because the finger holes are appropriately sized.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, that would explain some of the, the exit cuts, I guess, as I would say. When you see people come out of your booth, how would you describe it? Maybe sort of it's a choppy type end.
Right.
And it's usually 5 or 6, as far as I can tell, you make 5 or 6 strategic cuts around the head, and then that's about it.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. I tip again, because these scissors are so big, you can cut a lot of hair at once.
Yes.
So for most of my cuts, I go to about the length that they want, and I kind of do one big cut.
Right.
Again, kind of like you would be cutting a chicken leg off of a whole chicken.
Yeah.
One forceful cut to take off the majority of the hair, and from there. A lot of times what I have started doing is I'll get the little scissors and I'll give them to the person, and I'll kind of just have them touch up with my direction, because, again, my hands are so dexterous. They aren't so dexterous anymore.
Right.
And so I kind of just coach people through finishing their own haircuts after I do the 5 big cuts that get the shape close.
Well, that's cool. It's interactive.
And these guys, that's probably the first honest job they've had in a while, isn't it?
And I'll tell you what, just here looking at your hands, your index finger and your thumb, both of them, all 4 of them, I'll say, are all thicker than, a Bob Evans summer sausage. And you can't get those into what would those be called? The little hoops of the scissors.
Exactly.
So you've got your work cut out for you, but I think that your level of creativity speaks to the fact that you're in your calling. You know what I mean? Look at any sunset and you know that God is an artist. And when I look at your cuts, I say, you know what? That's a real artist. And even if they look like kind of hacky and like there are different like blunt layers and whatever, these people, these Hollywood celebrities, that's what they're going for. They want it to look, kind of like you went at it with garden shears, which I guess is essentially what you're doing. Would you say?
I thank you for calling me an artist. And I would say that I do occasionally, if my hands get sort of chunked up, which they do sometimes, I have done a few of these haircuts with garden shears using both hands.
Wow.
Yeah.
Because then I can use both hands and the strength in both hands, because again, as I've said, my hands are the dexterity and strength is gone. But I appreciate this this sort of thoughtful and kind read of what I'm doing for these people. And truthfully, they can't go anywhere else
That's right. It's free. It's free. I mean, it's a free haircut. What do you want? You're gonna get one of the 5, or one of the or the ponytail, and just stop complaining. Because and I've never obviously gone to, I go to, and this is probably a detail that people don't need to know, but I go to Chaz Bean Studios,
awesome,
which is one of the most
Chaz Bean
Studios.
Yeah, I've heard of.
It's amazing. And a haircut there cost $500 base price.
Wow.
Then you get at first it's a write-off for me. I need it. It's a performance-based haircut.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't be up on an iMag, with a haircut that, looks like I've just been cut with kitchen shears. I need a haircut, with what he uses, which is a hair blow dryer that actually reverse blow dries. It pulls the hair into the blow dryer, it dries it, and then micro needles the hair away at the end. So there's no split ends. And so just a shout out to Chaz Bean Studios. I really love Chaz, and I love what he's doing. He's also a magician. If you ever want to check it. Oh yeah, he's an excellent magician.
Now that's cool.
So your ends aren't being sliced by a shear; they're actually being needled.
They're being micro-needled and then laser sealed at the end with a protein cap, and that is really honestly, Hallie, I've never let you do this, but if you touch my hair, and actually, if you'd like to touch my hair too, Jim.
Oh, if you'd let me, I'd love to.
Okay, yeah, sure, you can feel it.
Wow.
Ow! Oh, okay, ow! I don't know
sorry.
if you. No, ow! Wow.
Your hair got caught in some of my hand wrinkles.
Right. Okay. Anyway,
but they kind of squeeze down. Sometimes if I move my hand just right, my hand wrinkles sort of are deep enough that they kind of like if you ever held onto a chain on a swing and your finger skin gets caught between the little metal rings of the chain. That kind of happened with your hair in my very wrinkled hands.
When I first saw you come in, I actually thought you were wearing a Hulk glove, but then I'm like, well, it's not green.
It's
so
not
it must
green.
just be his hand.
But the surface of your fingertips is kind of like a very rough sandpaper, and I'm sure that's just something that comes with age. Yeah.
Yeah, and also again, the fungicide chemicals that I use are quite harsh on your skin if you are exposed to them directly. And I'm very afraid of fungal infection. So often after a shift, I will drive home with one hand in a vat of this stuff just to make sure that none of the fungus has remained on my hands.
Probably shouldn't have asked you to touch my head.
That's smart. And I'll tell you what, as you know, I go to Mario Tricosi for my cuts because, I like a high-end, family place. But even at Mario Tricosi, you'll occasionally see one of these stylists spin someone around in the chair. They get one they get one glimpse of themselves in the mirror and they start bawling and crying.
Really?
It even happens in a high-end joint. Has that ever happened to you, Jim, where you give somebody something that looks great and is what they need and then they don't have a good emotional reaction?
That has happened to me one time, and it was when I was much younger, when I was still being a bit more, I hate to say that I've gotten less creative, but when I was willing to take a few more risks in my early days as a barber. I once, a young lady came in for a haircut. She said it was Valentine's Day. I'm going on the first date that I've been on in 14 years tonight.
Wow.
I need to get my hair looking good.
Ooh.
And I said, no problem, I can do. And this was at a point where the long brown was still on.
Even for lady. I mean, I feel like for ladies, it's never really gone away, has it?
Yeah, no, never will.
And so I agreed to give her a long brown.
Well, that's what Sheryl Crow has. That's what Amy Grant has, and that's what Jesus of Nazareth has.
Exactly. It's the most Christ-like haircut you can
It
get.
sure is.
And I will say, I guess my depth perception had started to go on at that point, and so what I thought was long to her was quite short.
Oh, just the opposite.
Yes. And so, what I thought was long was short to her. And when I turned her around to show her the mirror, because this time I was also cutting hair without letting people look in the mirror while I was doing it.
Yeah.
I turned her around into the mirror, and she looked at me and she said, did you not remember that I said I have a date tonight?
No.
She said,
well, she probably didn't after that.
I
guess my question is, did she come in crying? Because if she left crying, I would say no change.
She came in ecstatic.
Oh, no.
She came in, she showed me pictures of this guy that she was going on this date with. He's very handsome, obviously very wealthy, obviously had a good job. He was standing in front of a big GMC truck.
Wow.
And she was very excited when she came in, and when she left, I actually overheard her at a payphone outside of the shop calling this young man and canceling the date. And so that's really stuck with me. And I'll be honest, this is breaking news exclusive. That is actually the last long brown that I ever did.
Really?
It was when the menu shrunk to 5 cups.
Okay. Well, and I like, and it seems like you're keeping yourself accountable, because I like what you've done in the booth at the church. You've put a mirror on every wall of the inside of the booth.
Yes.
So when you go in there, I mean, you're not getting any surprises. You're seeing you at work as you're working. And on top of that, I mean, it looks like an infinite sort of hallway of mirrors
and
in a way.
It's very fun for the young folks who come in for a haircut. I will say this. It is actually, at this point in my age cycle, becoming difficult for me to tell which is the person and which is reflection. I will often try to cut the hair of a reflection. And so that's why you see my 2 knuckles on my right hand and my pointer and middle finger are kind of busted up with scabs. It's because I've repeatedly punched mirrors trying to cut the hair of reflections, because I'm disoriented by how many mirrors are in my booth.
Right. I mean, it's a 5x5 booth with 4 walls of mirrors. You're going to make a mistake. And I mean, it's probably very disorienting at your age. I'm sure I think I did the other day hear just someone calling out, "Help, I don't know where I am."
Yes,
maybe that was you.
It was me. I got lost in my own booth for a bit. Thankfully, Kathy was able to sort of lead me out. But it was frightening, because again, I'll admit I'm getting old, and so I do sometimes sort of get disoriented, and I have these moments of panic when I feel like I'm sort of lost or I can't find my way. And it's happened frequently, actually, since I installed all those mirrors in the booth at the church.
Well, who hasn't stabbed a mirror with some garden shears? You know what I mean?
Well, I don't know about that, Helen.
Well, that was a delight. He's so funny. Jim Halfy was played by the delightful Jon Mackey. Check out his very funny podcast, The DeMott Show, and follow him at It's Jon Mackey.
And here's a challenge. If you've ever had a haircut, why don't you send that episode to somebody who's never heard Mega before? It really does help us grow the show. And of course, there's all sorts of ways to support the show. You can find out about that in the show notes, like ways to get ad-free listing. Go check it out.
It means the world to us, y'all. Thanks so much, and we'll see you next time.